National Treasure another round of applause. Well, thank you for being here as we kick off this Remember the Removal Bike Ride for 2023. It's a beautiful day here in the capital city of Tahlequah. I want to thank you for being here in person. Thank you for watching online. Ladies and gentlemen, before we begin, I'd like to introduce a man who understands the value of this bike ride. He's a man of faith. I'd like to invite him to the podium for welcoming remarks and an invocation. Ladies and gentlemen, our Deputy Chief Brian Warner.
Well, Siona, God? All right. What a wonderful day and welcome here to our send-off. This is something of a really special time. And in this time, I want to ask that everybody throughout these days that are coming, be in prayer. I know many of us have been in prayer to prepare our hearts and to prepare the ladies' hearts to lead into wisdom along this bike ride, to lead into understanding, so that they may come back fuller of that knowledge that comes from those that have gone on before us. You know, in Proverbs it says, the tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruit. Also in the book it says to, above all else, guard our hearts, for everything that we do will flow from it. And I want you to understand that on this trip, ladies, that you will be connected more, I feel, to your heart than many times before in your life. And I want you to understand that in there is that fruit of the Spirit, that self-control, that love, that compassion, that kindness, that joy, that understanding that comes from being connected. So on this journey, it is my prayer for you all to be blessed, to have the words for one another, to listen with the ears of your heart to the ancestors. And remember the story of the ladies that went last year, and they talked about the tough moments when the butterflies came in and represented our ancestors and those different parts of this trip and this journey. You know, there's so much here that you will come in to know and to understand. So for that, I say welcome to each of you for stepping out and taking this journey like many have done before. So with that, folks, let's go into prayer. Let's put a hedge of protection around these young ladies. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we just thank you for this day, Lord. We thank you for this special time of fellowship and this send-off today, Lord. Each of us have come from a different direction, but we are all here, located with you, Lord. We just ask that your Spirit come in and fill us with love, compassion, kindness, and joy. Give us an extra measure of self-control as we go through these days. Help us to remember to stay on bended knee in prayer to you, Lord, for the safety and the wisdom that you give each of these young ladies. Lord, we know that there are things ahead that they will come to. Lord, we just ask that you open their hearts and their minds to this understanding that only you can give. Put a hedge of protection around these riders and around their families that are home, so that they can know and understand love and peace that only you can give. Lord, and on this day, give us an extra measure of grace and mercy so that we can show it to one another as you show each of us freely every single day. Lord, and today help us to remember those who are less fortunate than others. Help us to have the courage to find your will and to stay in your will and understand what your will is for your people. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Well, again, ladies, thank you for stepping out and being so courageous. Thank you for doing what others have gone on and done before. And to those bike riders that are in the crowd and with us that have been on this journey before, we say, well, no, to each of you. And we know that there is wisdom that you can impart to all of us. So I ask you just to have that courage. When that time is right, you will know. The Spirit will nudge you, and you will share that wisdom with whoever's in front of you. Thanks be to God, folks, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chief Warner. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, I'd like to recognize a few dignitaries and other special guests that we have with us here today in the audience. I'd like to begin with Principal Chief Chuck Hoskin Jr. And just heard from our Deputy Principal Chief, Mr. Ryan Warner. Speaker of the Cherokee Nation Tribal Council, District 9, Mike Shambaugh. We have the Secretary of our Council, Dora Patskowski. We have from District 2, Candessa Teehee. Members of the Cabinet, we have our Treasurer, Janice Taylor, is with us. Secretary of Veterans Affairs, Mr. S. Joe Crittenden. Attorney General Sarah Hill. Let's see, we also have Executive Director of Education Services, Mark Vance. Leader and mentor Will Chavez. I'd like to recognize Lisa Trice Turtle for all that she does. We have with us Kanan Duncan, Senior Advisor for Community Engagement. We have some Cherokee royalty with us here. Miss Cherokee Lauren Fields. We have some little Cherokee ambassadors, Cannon Lane, Olivia Doherty, and Rennie Ashford. Another group I'd like to recognize, we have a lot of mentors and support staff that are here making this trip happen. If you would, please stand or raise your hand if you're a mentor or support staff for this ride. Gentlemen, if you were a member of the inaugural 1984 Remember the Boonville Bike Ride, would you please stand if you're here in the audience? Also, if you're a bike rider from any of the past years, would you please stand or wave your hand so we can recognize you? We have a lot of those in there. There are over 200 alumni of this bike ride. But of course, ladies and gentlemen, we're here today to recognize 6 very strong Cherokee women and wish them well on their 2023 ride. At this time, we're going to ask each one of them to come up and introduce themselves. I'll say the name and they can come on up. We're going to start with Faith Springwater. She's 19. She's from right here in California.
Faith Springwater Dawajo, Wal, Jalaki Ganti, Aniwaya, Digayawi, Didegama, Galili. Soneledo Iagwatidia, Parka Janela Digagasku. Idandini Gesti, Digaji Lesana, and Noseho Tatli, Digagwati, Dakindaniski, Widow. Hello everyone, my name is Faith Springwater. Wal is my Cherokee name. I'm a part of the Wolf Clan and I'm very happy to be here. I'm 19 years old, I'm from Park Hill, and I'm a 2023 Remember the Removal Bike Rider. Thank you.
Next we have Libby Nugent. She's 40 years old. She's from Tulsa. She's a mentor rider.
Hello everyone, my name is Libby Nugent. Remember the little black rider?
Next, we have Amaya Bear Paul. She's 22. She's from Jay.
Sianagan, Amaya Verpa Gavado, Amaya Julia Joligan, Gigadoma Galili, Tosca Tal Yawadetia, Talpa Janel, Placa Digaga, Iana Disgasti, Digagia Listener, and Oseo, Tal Tigawa, Gakiradisi, Hello everyone, my name is Amaya Verpa. I'm very happy to be here today. I am 22 years old. I live here in Tahlequah, but I'm originally from Jay. And I am also very, very proud to say that I am a 2023 Women for the Black Rider.
Now we have Maddie Berry. She's 18. She's from Warner.
Maddie Berry Dogodo, Awi Dalgi Kanti, Oniwaya Diniyomi, Tiga Dharma Galili, Neladu, Iogo Desiaka, Overswalls Janela, Mortar Digega, Idanga Dis Gesti, Digagia Listener, and Asaho, Tali, Digagoti, Gakiladisi, whatever. Hello everyone, my name is Maddie Berry, always my Cherokee name. I'm part of Wolf Clan and I'm glad to be here. I'm 18 years old, I live in Breakfast Falls, but Warner is where I'm from, and I remember the move by Rider, thank you.
Next up, Kinsey Snell. She's 19. She's from Park Hill.
Sianagan, Kinsey Snell Dagoda, Anoli Jalagi Gandhi, Aniwaya Digiyowi, Jigadoma Galili, Soneladu Digagodetia, Awanagasti Janel Digagasku, Idandadis Gesti, Digiji Yalestana, Anoseho, Tatli, Digagoti, Gakiladisi, whatever. Hi everyone, my name is Kinsey Snell, and Oli is my Cherokee name. I'm also a part of the Wolf Clan. I'm very happy to be here today, and I'm thankful you all are here. I'm 19 years old, I'm from Park Hill, and I live in Park Hill, and I'm a 2023 Remover with Black Rider. Thank you.
And last but certainly not least, Samantha Cabin. She's 18. She's from Pryor.
Hello everyone, I'm Samantha Cabin. My Cherokee name is Diva, and I'm very honored to be here. My parents, sorry, I'm from Pryor, and I'm a 2023 Roman Black Rider. Thank you.
Great job, ladies. Audience, could we give them another round of applause? Well, Chief Hoskin and Deputy Chief Warner are strong supporters of educational opportunities, leadership opportunities for Cherokee youth. The Cherokee Remember the Removal Bike Ride program is near and dear to their hearts. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, it gives me a great pleasure to introduce to you the Chief of the Cherokee Nation, Mr. Chuck Hoskin, Jr.
It's a wonderful day in the Cherokee Nation. We can celebrate the accomplishments of young people and remember our history. To start with the first point, these ladies haven't taken that first pedal on this long journey, but they're already accomplished. The effort that goes into preparing themselves physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually is something that of itself is a great accomplishment. So I know we'll applaud them a lot today. We should. But just for where they've gotten to this point, it's remarkable. It's what many of us on our best day would only hope we could do. And I just appreciate where you are at this moment before you take that first step, whatever. The Remember the Removal Ride is one of the most significant annual events in all of the Cherokee Nation, and it's an important event. The idea of remembering is something that's special to Cherokees today. You better believe it's been special throughout our history. It doesn't matter how mighty the United States was, what strength they brought to bear to rip our people out of their homelands 185 years ago. It doesn't matter that an oppressive government bent on removing, ultimately destroying our people. It didn't matter how strong that force was. It wasn't stronger than the Cherokee people's spirit or our collective ability to remember and not let the country forget. It's a lot of years between now and our forced removal. Many years between the forced removal of our people, which itself came on the heels of one of the most remarkable acts of defiance and strength that any people have ever demonstrated. And that's what our ancestors did before we were removed. And when we were removed, of course, the conditions were brutal. We know that part of remembering is to say it. That the policies of the government of the United States rounded our people up in stockades, marched us across the country in an act of brutality, led to the death of a quarter of our ancestors, men, women, children, grandmas, grandpas, and grandbabies, all to further an Indian policy that decided that the Cherokee people were a problem to be solved. To solve that problem, they were to be pushed across the map and dispossessed of what we had from time immemorial. But they couldn't take away our spirit. They couldn't remove our spirit. All the federal law in the world couldn't root out what's inside the Cherokee people. And in the decades and generations that followed, all of the other policies and pressures that at times nearly again led to the destruction of the Cherokee Nation. All of that combined could not extinguish the flame that's in each of us. All of that combined could also not suppress the memory. As we remember, and part of remembering and turning that pain and that sense of injustice into a quest for healing and a quest for justice. And that's what our people have been about in the nearly 2 centuries since the United States decided there was an Indian problem to be solved, and solving that meant pushing Cherokees across the map. All of that has fueled us collectively. That's so important. We do this collectively to do great things, to overcome. And that's why this event is so important for all of us, because we remember the pain and the suffering. We remember and can pass on to the generation coming up what happened in this country. And we can use that to have a conversation about what happened next, what happened upon arrival in our new homeland, what we did to rebuild, what we did to pick ourselves back up, what we did to overcome the trauma that stays with us today, which means we're still every day collectively trying to overcome it, trying to lift each other up. This event, unlike any other, serves as a unifying event in which we can set aside those things day to day that may divide us, that seem so big in the moment. But in the grand scheme of the history of our great people, those things don't much matter. What matters is this. What matters is the spirit that's brought us together today. What matters are the thoughts and prayers and well wishes that will accompany these ladies on their journey. What matters is that we will all have the same sense of loss on behalf of our ancestors and a sense of hope on behalf of these ladies. So for all of us, this does something special, and it's important. That's the first thing I think of when I think of this event. The second thing I think of is to remind the rest of the world what happened, and to remind the rest of the world that we're still here, and to recognize that as much progress as the Cherokee Nation has done, as much as we have overcome, as long as it's been since those brutal days of the Trail of Tears, that we have a great story to tell of endurance but so much of the world still doesn't know that story, let alone the story of our forced removal. We've got to tell them, and there's no one else in this country, there's no one else on this planet that's going to tell them or tell it quite the way that the Cherokee people can tell it. And there is not a better way to remind the country what happened so many years ago, things that seem like it's just ancient history to people. In fact, it's chapters of history that a few in this country not only don't want to remember, but they actively try to suppress that memory. We're not going to let it be suppressed. And it's not just going to take the form of the museums we have. It's not going to just take the form of old documents that we put in frames. It's going to take the form of something more powerful than any force on this planet. It's going to take the form of some young Cherokees who dare go retrace that trail. And it's going to send word, as it does every year around this country, around the globe. The Cherokee people overcame a great deal. We are still here. Here we are. That's going to be more powerful than the words of any chief. It's going to be more powerful than the words of any document. It's going to be the most powerful statement we can send, and it's important that we send it every year. We're sending it again. And the third thing, this is not in order of importance because this is perhaps the most important thing, is I've witnessed the departure of riders past and their return. And anyone who's witnessed both of those in the same year knows that there is a change that happens along that journey. Those of us that don't ride, don't know it, don't experience, cannot fully grasp the depth of it, but you see it. And those of you that can come back, I know the family members will be here. These ladies come back, you will see it, you will feel it, it will reverberate within you because you know that experience something powerful. There is a mixture of some sadness, because how could you not bring back some deeper sense of the tragedy of your ancestors when you go to the very places that tragedy unfolded? And how can you not bring back some depth of sorrow when you stand on a spot and look back and know that that was the last spot that your ancestors saw the old Cherokee Nation before they continued on that brutal journey? But more than that, there is such a sense of joy among the riders that come back. Something has changed for the better. And the parents see it. You can see that reflected in the tears. It is something that does something that only the riders know for sure, but I know it just witnessing it. Something special has happened. And when it happens with young people who already have, I think, the brightest of futures, you know that future is even brighter. You know that these young ladies are going to be even better leaders in the days and decades ahead than they already were going to be before they went on this journey. This journey will do something powerful for these young ladies. It's going to help the rest of us, because the truth is these young ladies and their peers, there's so many talented young Cherokees out there, they're going to be running this place one of these days. And we need them. We need every ounce of energy they have. We need their sense of history. We need their sense of mission. If this tribe is to be as great as it can be, these ladies will help us get there. All because they remember, we remember. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Chief Hoskin, for those words of encouragement and the support for these young ladies. At this time, Chief and Deputy, if you don't mind, to join me right up here. We've got a special gift presentation by Payne Springwater and Andy Berry. Ladies, come on up. Ladies and gentlemen, they're being presented with this year's Remember the Removal Bike Ride commemorative poster, which was designed by Justine Eden, a graphic designer. Another group of strong supporters for what we're doing joined here today is our tribal council. At this time, I'd like to ask Speaker Shambaugh to come to the podium to give a few remarks. Welcome, Speaker Shambaugh.
Well, I think this is probably the biggest crowd I've ever seen at one of these events, which tells me a lot about the support that these young ladies have. First of all, I just want to say that I'm hoping Chief or Deputy leaves their office unlocked, because that's probably going to be hanging in my office if they do. That is a picture. Ladies, we're here today to honor you for what you are about to endure, let's say. But if you look at that little van out there and you see that route that they're taking, this is a tough trip. And this year, I think it might have been in last year, early this year, I flew into Knoxville on a late flight. It's 10-something when I get there. I have to drive the Cherokee from Knoxville, so I have to go over the mountain. And whenever you look on your iPhone to tell you how to get there, there's 3 paths. There's one that goes around, one that goes around, and one that goes straight. And the one that goes straight is the quickest. So I go to the quickest route, which was the mistake route to go. I should have went around, but it's raining, it's foggy, and I got on something in North Carolina called the Dragon's Tail. Had no idea what it was. There's 300 and something turns in this road. So I'm driving 15 to 20 miles an hour because I cannot see it. There's turns in this road where you can no longer see the road. They are so tight. And as I drove up this road, I never saw another car for over an hour. And I started thinking, this is the path our ancestors took to leave North Carolina. And to drive that in a car through the fog and the rain was just almost insane. I was wishing I had a baseball bat or something, because I thought, man, something's going to happen, because I haven't seen anybody at all. And it was kind of scary. But can you imagine, I don't want to be dark, but can you imagine really what our ancestors went through on this trip? You know, when you look at a forced removal, you know the people who are removing you probably aren't going to treat you the best in the world. And you say, well, there's, you know, that was a different time back then. But you know, when I was in college, we had a history course, and one of my great friends, he was a roommate of mine, was a Hispanic guy. We came to the Indian Wars in history. And one part that was read out loud in class was, the only good Indian was a dead Indian. And that just absolutely, got us from California, absolutely blew his mind. Because he said, I never heard of this. But you know, this is why we don't forget our history. This is why we can't let this die. And because those things happened, and that was the attitude of the day. So what you're doing to honor the past is so important, because we can never forget. You know, you can gain strength from different things as you drive, because there's going to be tough times. And any athlete will tell you that, you know, how do you get through those tough times? You know, you have to remember those things while you're there. And I think that's the biggest thing that we can't forget, is what we went through and the horrors of it. But getting out of the dark part of everything, look around you. Look at the Cherokee Nation now. I mean, this is our building. This is our complex. All of these buildings are ours. Look at everything, all the great positive things that go on in the Cherokee Nation now. We went from that to this. So knowing that, I sat between 2 strong Cherokee women on the tribal council. So they keep me in line virtually every meeting. And when I sit here and look at you, and I look at last year, which was the first time we ever had all women on the team, I'm telling you, the Cherokee women during the Trail of Tears were probably the strongest of all the Cherokees, because, you know, they had to take care of the kids, they still had to cook. There were so many things that they had to do. And you know, whenever somebody got sick, do you really think they cared enough to stop? Did they care enough to let you bury your dad? Did they do those things? It's really it's very, very dark. But again, look at where we are at today. I want to give you a little advice, and I'll close with this. Always keep the faith during this trip. And keeping the faith means this. And it's something that you can tell each other as you ride. Just keep the faith. That means you keep the faith in the Creator. You always keep faith in yourself. And one of the biggest things is you keep faith in each other. That is what will get you through this. That is what will give you strength. And just know that the reason you ride is to honor our ancestors. We are so proud of you. I think you are the best that the Cherokee Nation has to offer. And from the bottom of the Tribal Council's heart, I know that we support you guys 100%, and we are so happy that you've taken up this tough endeavor. And thank you all for coming. This is an unbelievable crowd again. We should all be very proud of our young Cherokee women. Didn't that just give you goosebumps when they're all speaking Cherokee at the first? It does to me every time. Ladies, again, thank you. Well done.
Sam Ball, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time we have a couple of former RTR participants who would like to give some words of encouragement. First up, we have Alexis Watt. Alexis, would you please come forward?
I'm Alexis. I was honored to be a part of the 2015 ride. Hopefully I can give you some words of encouragement to start recording. Throughout your training process, you've learned to work as a team and support each other. And as you meet the Eastern Band, remember that they are your team as well. Work hard to integrate the two teams into one as you're journey back. You'll meet friends during your travels as well, and some that may not be so kind. As you meet them, remember to treat everyone with kindness so they can see how the Cherokees have prevailed. Remember to show grace and teach others what you have learned. When you make stops to pay tribute to those that had to be left behind, remember that your sacrifice led them to you. And the strengths of those that made it to Indian Territory. There will be times that you struggle, and in those moments, remember there are friends, family, and even strangers that are rooting for you back home. Remember there are generations behind you, pushing you towards your goal. In today's nation, we are connected to the world, and I encourage you to unplug and immerse yourself in this experience. Remember that back in the 1800s, it was not so easy to stay in touch. It was also not so easy to know who was coming back and who you would see again. So just remember, as you're coming back, maybe you will see your friends and family again. Use the time you have on this experience to remember that those that took the path before you, and this experience will bond you for life, so lean on each other for strength. And remember to take care of Maggie for me, because she is one of mine. So remember the removal. Motto.
Thank you for those words of encouragement, Alexis. At this time, we have Kevin Stretch, a 2019 participant.
Wadong nag siyo kaliligid Chikidoma and Chikatawoj. I'm glad to be here, and I took a shower this morning. So, Chief, Deputy Chief, Mr. Speaker, I will say, Mr. Speaker dated himself by saying he wished he had a baseball bat for protection, so we know kind of his age. So, you know, you've heard a lot of people talk about encouragement and teamwork. The main thing is to just enjoy each other. And when you're out on the road, I'm one of the things that I saw, someone talked about the butterflies last year. One of the things I saw along the road all the entire way, coneflowers. So coneflowers, when you're out in the middle of nowhere, you know, there are communities that have Trail of Tears monuments, memorials. You go meet those folks, but most of the time it's just you and the road, right? And the coneflowers. So when I would go by the coneflowers, I would imagine that's where, you know, some of our ancestors were buried along the roadsides. So you are going to meet a lot of strangers, and those strangers won't all be Cherokee. Most of them won't be Cherokees that have these little places. And it's amazing that they want to keep the truth of what happened right there. So I will say that as an alumni writer, I would like to propose to the Cherokee Language Council that we change the word from Missouri to Geechee-Gwali, which means my butt hurts. Because I'm sure you've already heard the stories of Missouri, and you will say Uyo-Ganon a lot, which means rough road. So don't forget that we all know the stories of pain and suffering. But one of the things that Cherokees do when they come together, whether it's in hard times or good times, is we share laughter. So just imagine when you're on the ride, imagine when you're on the ride that even though they were in very tough times, very tough weather, just hear the voices of the kids playing along the ride and the laughter, and their parents are going to laugh with them. You know, we're here because they kept up their morale, right? So their morale was important to them. And they came here and they built seminaries and they built, tribal government almost immediately to work on that. So their morale was very important. So along the way, just imagine that the laughter and the support each other had to carry on was the most important thing. So good luck to my daughter.
Hello, Kevin. Ladies and gentlemen, as Chief Hoskin mentioned, every participant who has been on this journey comes back a changed person. Thank you, Kevin, for those words. As we've mentioned, this inaugural ride started in 1984. It was the vision of Mike Morris. He wanted to create a youth leadership experience, and it resulted in the removal, remember the removal bike ride. With the planning help of Mose Killer, these two men built this program. The very first bike ride, they took their camping gear with them, ride on their bikes, they prepared their own meals, and they had quite the experience. But at this time, I'd like to call for Principal Chief Chuck Hoskin Jr., Deputy Chief Ryan Warner, to make a very special presentation. Would you gentlemen please join me here? And also like to call for Mike Morris and the family of the late Mose Killer. Would you please come forward? Ladies and gentlemen, first we're going to present to Mike Morris. Thank you, Mr. Morris. Next, that we have Mike Killer join us, son of Mose Killer, late Mose Killer. And thank you guys, thank you. Thanks, David. Thank you all. Ladies, we're getting there. We've got one more speaker. For closing remarks, I'd like to invite to the podium Mark Vance, the Executive Director of Education Services, who oversees this program. Mark, would you please come forward?
Thank you, Chief of Staff. First of all, thank you everyone coming out. What a great crowd. These young ladies right here, I want to thank the selection committee, Carolyn Allen and Aaron Emerson, for selecting these ladies and going through the process. Most importantly, ladies, when you're out there, you know what? Trust your training. Trust your training. Will Chavez, come here. Come here, Will. Ladies, stand up. When you get tired and hot and want to quit, look out here. You got Coach Will Chavez right here. Everybody give him a round of applause. Let's support him.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've also been asked to let Mike Killer say a few words. Mike, do you want to say anything? Put him on the spot.
How much time do I have? Let's go. You ever just wake up feeling blessed every day? First of all, I just want to thank my family and Chief, Deputy Chief Speaker for allowing me to speak. My beautiful wife, Jerry Ann Killer back there, my kids, Lennox and Levi, her mother, Peg Calloway, my mother, Reba. She's around here somewhere. Okay. Also have Dad's brother, my uncle, Thomas, his wife, Tracy, Aunt Barbara, Lila, my brothers, Jerry and Tyson. We're very honored, very humbled. He talked about the bike ride. He said it was tough. Probably one of the greatest things he's done is travel that. So always remember where you come from, know where you're going. Ladies, I know this is about you guys today. I just want to say you have an entire nation behind you, praying for you. Remember that when it gets tough. I don't want to take up too much time, but when you get there to some of these spots, you're going to feel our ancestors there. I've been to a few of them myself, and you will feel it. You'll feel the emotion. It'll be a roller coaster. But at the end, it'll be well worth it. We're all proud of you. We love you. You're our Cherokee women. I've always been taught to love our Cherokee women. They are strong. And my sister that's not here today, she's at a camp working. She was one of my heroes. I look up to her. Even though she's my younger sister, I look up to her. So just remember that. With that, I say, Rodolfo, thank you. Thank you, guys.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time. If you don't mind, stand up if you can. And we're going to wish these ladies, go ahead and stand, ladies. Now's the time we're going to give you a proper send-off, okay? Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the 2023 Remember the Removal Bike Riders.